Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation, in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country, and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen. Honorable members, I have one announcement and one ruling. The announcement is as follows. Honorable members, on Thursday, 13th July 2023, I did inform the House about the football match between the honorable members of Parliament and officials from the Turkish embassy at the Atletico Lusaka Sports Complex. I now wish to inform the House that honorable members of Parliament won the match by 4 goals to 2, and were given a trophy. The next match will be against former members of Parliament on 29th July 2023. The venue of the match will be communicated in due course. I wish, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, to congratulate the team for the victory. I thank you. The ruling on a point of order raised on Friday, 23rd June 2023 by Mr. O. Amutike, Member of Parliament for Mongu Central Constituency, against Mr. L. Simumba, Member of Parliament for Nakonde Constituency, for allegedly misleading the House that Kenneth Kaunda International Airport was voted the best airport in Africa. Honorable members, the House will recall that on Friday, 23rd June 2023, when the House was considering the report of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, and Mr. L. Simumba, Member of Parliament for Nakonde Constituency, was debating, Mr. O. Amutike, Member of Parliament for Mongu Central Constituency, raised a point of order. The point of order was based on Standing Order 65-1B, which requires a member debating to ensure the information he or she provides to the House is factual and verifiable. In his point of order, Mr. O. Amutike, MP, asked whether Mr. L. Simumba, MP, was in order to assert that Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, KKIA, was voted the best international airport in Africa, without laying evidence on the table to substantiate his assertion. Honorable members, in her immediate response, the Honorable Madam First Deputy Speaker reserved her ruling. I have studied the matter and I will now render my ruling. Honorable members, the point of order raises the issue of members' duty to ensure that the information he or she provides to the House is factual and verifiable. Honorable members, I had recourse to the relevant verbatim record in order to ascertain whether Mr. L. Simumba, MP, made the statement as alleged. The relevant excerpt of this statement is as follows, and I quote, Madam Speaker, the date that each honorable member on your right talks about can be attributed to the infrastructure which they have seen, that the Patriotic Front, PF, left behind. The Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, KKIA, has been voted the best airport in Africa, end of quote. Honorable members, it is that statement that was the basis of Mr. O. Amutike's MP's point of order. Further, honorable members, I also had recourse to the relevant verbatim record of the statement made by Mr. O. Amutike, MP, when raising the point of order. The relevant excerpt of his statement is as follows, and I quote, the honorable member who is on the floor of the House has just made a statement which is aimed at misleading this House. He has claimed that the Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, KKIA, has been voted the best airport in Africa. The fact of the matter is that Cape Town International Airport, CPT, has been voted the best airport in Africa, end of quote. Honorable members, I wish to reiterate that members enjoy freedom of speech and debate in the House. However, the freedom is not absolute because it is subject to the law and rules of the House. One such rule is the requirement of members to debate factually. In this regard, Standing Order 65-1B of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2021, is instructive. It provides as follows, and I quote, 65.1, a member who is debating shall, B, ensure that the information he or she provides to the House is factual and verifiable, end of quote. Honorable members, Mr. O. Amutike, MP, informed the House that the statement by Mr. L. Simumba, MP, that KKIA was voted the best airport in Africa was not factual. He then went on to assert that Cape Town International Airport was voted the best airport in Africa. In so doing, he also did not produce any evidence to substantiate his statement. From the foregoing, it is clear that both members did not provide any evidence to support their assertions. In view of this, both members breached Standing Order 65-1B and were out of order. Honorable members, regrettably, the tendency by members on both sides of the House to make unsubstantiated statements has continued. This has the potential to mislead the House and the public at large. I therefore wish to remind members to avoid making unsubstantiated statements in the House. I thank you. We quickly go to the next item, which is matters of urgent public importance. Honorable members, as you raise your matters of for urgent public importance, please honorable members, ensure that you are precise to the point. Do not debate. Once the honorable members debate, there is a potential to open a statement which will not be responded to by the minister or the ministry involved. In the event that a member continues to debate, honorable members, are we together? In the event that a member, in spite of being guided, continues to debate, I'll have no option but to call the relevant minister to make a statement. And once the minister makes a statement, there will be no points of clarification. So this is just to make sure that we have the two sides of the story, because once a member makes a statement and there's no reaction, the members of the public will not be able to get the side of the government. So we have four matters of urgent public importance, starting with the honorable member for Chinsali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to raise the matter of urgent public importance on the Minister of Labor and Social Security. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to proceed. Madam Speaker, there is information that has emerged and has been published in today's News Diggers newspaper, where it has been reported that hackers have hit the information system of our pensions authority, which is NAPSA. Madam Speaker.
Honorable member, before we go further, I think that is a matter which you can put in a question. Does not qualify to be raised as a matter of urgent public importance. Looking at the criteria is the guiding factor. So please put in a question if you want.
I can explain the criteria if you can allow me.
Honorable member, we have already passed. You can take your seat. The honorable member for Feira.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I raise matter of national urgent importance. In fact, the minister just looked at me. Yes, the Minister of Infrastructure. And it regards D145 being the main road in Feira constituency. Madam Speaker, this road has become a death trap. Just in December, we lost an agriculture officer.
Honorable member, well, that issue, no, we have had questions on the state of the roads, and usually we have put in questions. Yeah. So please put in a question. It does not qualify.
Madam Speaker,
the honorable member for Katombola, please take your seat. Honorable member for Katombola.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Katombola to raise an urgent matter of public importance directed at the Minister of Home Affairs in absentia. Madam Speaker, from Katombola, we've received a number of complaints. People want to know what really exactly happened. We lost 261 people from the record during the gassing, and our people have been asking exactly what happened.
Order, honorable member for Katombola, that's not a matter which is urgent. The issue of gassing has been going on for some time. If you want, you can put in a question. So that concludes matters of urgent public importance. Questions for oral answer under Standing Order 74. The honorable member for Solwezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing the good people of Solwezi East Mushindamo District to ask a question. Madam Speaker, question number 385. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Technology and Science.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Solwezi asks the Minister in three parts whether the government has any plans to upgrade Ivanhoe College of Applied Arts and Commerce to a university college. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And C, if there are no such plans, why? Madam Speaker, I wish to inform this august House that in line with the revised 2020 TEVET policy, the government plans to upgrade Ivanhoe College and other institutions which will be identified into technical university colleges. As the House may be aware, the new Dawn government has placed priority on hands-on skills development as espoused in the 8th National Development Plan. Accordingly, the government has taken the following steps to create a favorable legal environment to actualize the transformation. Number one, obtained cabinet approval in principle for the review of the Technical Education, Vocation and Entrepreneurship Training Act number 13 of 1998, which will provide for upgrading and creating of technical college universities. And two, commence the drafting of the TVET Bill 2023. The House may wish to note that the government is committed to ensuring that the training offered in training institutions is relevant to the artisanal skills needs of the industry in order to raise productivity and technical development. In B, as stated in Part A above of the response, the implementation of these plans will be undertaken once the Ministry has completed the revision of the TVET Act 1998, currently under review, which will provide for the establishment of technical universities. In C, in view of the response given in Part B of the question, this part automatically falls off. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the wonderful response, taking into consideration that the new Dawn government has really given priority to upgrading such institutions, because we have certain universities just have a house and the 3 rooms, and they are called universities. And yet, Evelyn Horn has got the state of the art in terms of human resource infrastructure. So thank you for the response, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
So that, well, I will just allow 2 more questions since the owner of the question is satisfied. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa to be followed by the Honorable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The question that was raised by the MP for Solwezi is of public interest, and I take note of the responses that the Minister has provided. My follow-up question directed at the Minister of Science and Technology. You have indicated that there are some laws that you want to revise to facilitate some of these activities. Is it a requirement, Honorable Minister, that such a piece of legislation must be changed in order for a college to be upgraded into a university college? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Technology and Science.
Thank you for that question. Madam Speaker, it is indeed a legal requirement. Without the amendment of the law, you cannot upgrade a college to a university. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Luena.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, once again, it's good to hear that the government is really looking into this issue of creating this category of university colleges, or sometimes also known as college universities. And one hopes that institutions such as Zambia Institute of Management, ZAMIM, will also benefit from the upgrade. My question, in this upgrading of colleges to universities, will your ministry confirm that the category and types of qualifications offered at these universities will still be maintained? Because the trend that we've seen in the past is once an institution is called, has a university in its name, then they abandon all the other qualifications at other levels and want to call everything a degree. Will you confirm that it's still important for us to have diplomas, certificates, higher diplomas, and the other qualifications, and they will still be offered in these university colleges? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Technology and Science.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The intention is quite clear, that we create a progressive career path, and that path will have the diploma as the first stage, and obviously added to it a degree. So all those things that are offered in a college, including certificates, will continue to be offered. And the reason we're upgrading, Madam Speaker, is to be able to open the lead to career progression. It is able to include such components as designs, planning, project management, and other aspects that are critical from the skills that have been harvested. In short, Madam Speaker, it is the ability to transform a plumber into one that can be able to design a plumbing network. That is the intention. That is opening the lead to career opportunities. I thank you.
Thank you. The next question, the Honorable Member for Mandevu. The Honorable Member for Chitambo. Sorry, I jumped.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 386.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member for Chitambo, Honorable Member Mutale, is asking the Ministry two questions. And those are, when the Acro Bridge will be installed across Luombwa River in Chitambo District, and B, what has caused the delay in installing the bridge? The answers as follows, Madam Speaker. A, the installation of the Acro Bridge across Luombwa River in Chitambo District will be installed once Treasury sources the required funds for the project. The answer to B is the delay in installing the Acro Bridge across Luombwa River, Chitambo District, is due to financial constraints. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Chitambo.
Madam Speaker, I bemoan the answer from the Minister, because it is in this House that we were given a list of bridges that were going to be installed, and it is in this House we were told that 118 bridges will be installed with Acro bridges, and the Luombwa Bridge was one of them. And we were meant also to understand that these bridges were brought in. And I physically went to check on these bridges. They are around in Lusaka, Madam Speaker. Actually, even grass is growing on them there. Madam Speaker, from my understanding, what I know is that buying the bridges themselves is very expensive, and installing them should be the cheapest thing to ever do. In the meantime, since now we know that you are not going to install this bridge between now or forever, what interventions are you going to put on this bridge so that the people of Luombwa can have an access to the mainland, because they live more like on an island? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Madam Speaker, I thank the Honorable Member for the follow-up question. First of all, for clarification, these bridges were bought by the previous administration, and there were a total of 131 bridges across the country in six provinces. 4 were left out. And from the time they arrived, only one, when we came in as the new Dawn administration, only one such bridge had been installed. This is the one in Eastern Province. The rest had not been installed for financial constraints. This has happened even during our administration. I think the issue of funds or lack of funds has been clearly articulated on the floor of this House. What other members have done is to use part of the CDF, and I will give examples of who has done that, to have some bridges allocated to them installed. An example is in Kanchivia constituency. Honorable Sunday Chanda, I think, did that. Another example is Zambezi West, where a member of parliament also installed or is in the process of installing some bridges by using part of the CDF funds. The project had initially been earmarked for implementation, that is in Chitambo constituency, using contractor Messrs. MNS Global with a contract sum of 57,126,750 kwacha 39 ngwe to construct the Loomba Bridge in Chitambo district, including 4 other bridges, namely Loomba Bridge on the Nansanga Road in Serenje, Lukasashi on Serenje Chisomo Road in Serenje, Fukwe on Serenje Chisomo Road in Serenje, and Mairo across the Lusiwasi River, about 2 kilometers from Kawama School in Serenje. This contract was signed in June 2020 with a duration of 9 months. However, the project could not commence due to funding challenges. So in view of the foregoing, the government intends to install the acro bridges, including Loomba Bridge in Chitambo district, with the help of the Zambian National Service and the Zambia Army. RDA has assessed that to install one acro bridge using force account, the cost will be about 7 million kwacha. Let me further explain that when members of parliament are able to surrender a portion of their CDF, what government through RDA does is it undertakes certain works. The money surrendered is used for carrying out the civils on site. And the RDA, using either Zambia National Service or Zambia Army, we move these bridges on site and have these 2 security wings install the bridge. That has the impact of lessening the cost. So the honorable member has a choice either to help us with surrendering some of his CDF or to wait until such time as government is liquid enough to be able to carry out these works on their own. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The honorable member for Chitambo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Speaking on the CDF component that, Minister, you've brought in, you have mentioned ZNS to come in if we allowed the monies from the CDF. My question to you is on the supervision component, because I understand that when ZNS come in, there will be the contractor, so to say. Is your ministry willing to offer consultants should we give in on the CDF? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Yes.
Thank you. From the answers, we can make progress. We have a lot of work to do. The next question, the Honorable Member for Mandevo. The Honorable Member, by prior arrangement for Chawama, will ask on behalf of the Honorable Member for Mandevo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 387.
The Honorable Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Member of Parliament from Mandevu constituency, Honorable Shakafuswa, is asking the Minister of Water Development and Sanitation the following question. A, whether the government has any plans to rehabilitate the sewerage system in Justin Kawe ward in Mandevu parliamentary constituency. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. C, what the estimated cost of the project is. And D, what the estimated time frame for completing the project is. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. A, government has no immediate plans to rehabilitate the sewerage system in Justin Kawe ward in Mandevu parliamentary constituency because the existing sewerage system is functional. Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Limited maintains the sewerage system. B, there are no plans to rehabilitate the sewerage system in Justin Kawe ward, but the system is under routine maintenance by Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Under C, there are no plans and cost for the project. D, Madam Speaker, as already alluded to, under A above, government has no immediate plans to rehabilitate the sewerage system in Justin Kawe ward in Mandevu parliamentary constituency. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions. Honorable member, let's bear in mind this is a constituency-based question. We need to reserve time for the other business that is following. The honorable member for Chitambo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister, I hope you've been to this site to see for yourself the clogging around the ponds. And you mentioned that there is always routine maintenance. When is the next routine maintenance? Because if you moved around that area, the smell that comes out of that water, the stagnation and so on is quite worrisome. When is the next routine maintenance? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Madam Speaker, I take note of the concerns raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chitambo, and I promise that I will make a follow-up with the utility company as to when the routine works will take place. I cannot say here, but that can be indicated by the experts and the CU. But suffice to say that I will make a follow-up so that those concerns can be addressed on behalf of the people of Justin Kawe, but also the people who, use that route near the ponds. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I think the situation that necessitated the Honorable Member posing this question emanates from the fact that population in that area has grown and the Lusaka population has equally grown. Under the Millennium Challenge account, we had the other sewer facilities rehabilitated and brought to the modern standard. And obviously, due to the intense nature of the works that are required to be done, the utility company might not be able to find the resources to undertake these works that are required. Would you, as government, make an intervention, obviously knowing that the water utility company is under your jurisdiction, and interacting with them, we know how they are struggling. But the situation is dire. And like the Honorable MP for Chitambo said, if you just took a tour of the area, it's an hazard. And the system has been overwhelmed by the population. Would government consider coming to the aid of the water utility company in dealing with this infrastructure? I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to also thank the Member of Parliament for Shwangandu for that follow-up question. Madam Speaker, it's true that the population of Lusaka has grown, and obviously this tends to put pressure on the facilities that ordinarily were planned for a relatively smaller population. The other problem, Madam Speaker, is that because of unplanned developments, those who are familiar with the facilities we are talking about would appreciate that at the time that these facilities were set up there, the place was relatively free from settlements, but then human activities and planned development, people started building around the ponds, and this has also created another problem. Madam Speaker, as to whether a government would intervene and come to the rescue of the CUs, we normally do that from time to time, but this is dependent on also whether the CU sees it that there should be interventions from some intervention from the ministry. But I want to say, Madam Speaker, that as a long-term solution to the problem we are discussing, considering that now most of the houses have been built really around the ponds, I think the long-term solution is to decommission the sewer ponds so that we can free the area of the hazards that are associated with the sewer ponds. And I want to say that most likely in the next 5 years, by around 2028, we'll be looking at completely decommissioning that facility and see how we can connect the people that originally newly planned facilities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister of Water, for your answers you are providing. Minister, I just wanted to find out if perhaps the ministry or indeed the water utility company, when do they intend to carry out a feasibility study to see to it that this situation is averted? I'm saying so because I've got some small facility there, and usually there are clogs, it's blocked, you call water and sewerage, they take time to come. You have to do your private hiring of people to come and work on that sewer system. So when is the ministry or at all Lusaka Water and Sewerage coming up with a feasibility study to ascertain what needs to be done in Mandevu constituency? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Water, Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I also want to thank the Member of Parliament for Bwana Mkubwa for that follow-up question. I don't know what facility he has around there. It would have been nice for him to mention what facility he has around there. But, Madam Speaker, like I've said, first of all, we don't have a certain time frame in which we study. But like I've said, that considering the problem that has come up in garden area there under Justin Kawe ward, those ponds, the location of those ponds has now become unsuitable because they are really in the middle of the residential area, and that the right thing to do is to decommission the ponds. So this we hope to see being done in the next 5 years, and I indicated that by 2028 we are hoping that we can close that facility, meaning by the time we'll be closing that facility, we'll have come up with other measures, other facilities to which the area can be serviced. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The last question, Honorable Member for Bwacha.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Minister, for the responses given so far. Honorable Madam Speaker, the Minister, in responding to substantive question B, indicated that government has no immediate plans to rehabilitate the sewerage system in Justin Kawe ward in Mandevu parliamentary constituency. No reasons, Madam Speaker, were stated I would want to hear from the minister the reasons why your ministry not having any immediate plans to work on this project. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. If the honorable member was listening, you would have heard the reason because it was stated. The Honorable Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Wacha for that follow-up question. Indeed, I connected that question to the answer I provided under A, that apparently there's no project there, Honorable Member of Parliament. What is there is the existing facility. So we don't have any project now or in the near future to work around there. What is happening is that we are carrying out routine maintenance to just keep the facility afloat. And this is why I said that we have no plans to come up with any project around there, because the facility is already there. It's been existing for some time. And it just requires from time to time to have routine maintenance. But I think what has been very clear is that members of parliament who raised some concerns are bemoaning the state in which the sewer facility is in. It's in a deplorable state, and the fact that also houses have now surrounded the facility. So this question was connected to my answer under A. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The next question, the Honorable Member for Lufwanyama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 388.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member for Fwanyama is asking the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock a question in three parts. A, whether the government has any plans to empower small-scale farmers in Fwanyama parliamentary constituents with cattle in order to boost production. In B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. And in C, if there are no such plans, why? Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. In A, yes, my ministry is promoting cattle rearing through the stocking and restocking program. The aim of this program is to ensure food and nutrition security, wealth creation, and creating employment. This year, Madam Speaker, my ministry has earmarked to conduct countrywide stocking and restocking of 1,000 beef cattle and 225 dairy cattle. Currently, my ministry is in the process of selecting areas where the cattle will be restocked and stocked. Once the districts have been identified, I will be able to advise the Honorable Member of Lufwanyama accordingly. On the other hand, Madam Speaker, my ministry is collaborating with the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission, CEEC in short, to support cattle loan facility to farmers at favorable loan repayment conditions. The facility is currently in the initial stages, and once finalized, it will be advertised for the benefit of the would-be beneficiaries. Lastly, Madam Speaker, my ministry will be working with the district councils, such as Lufwanyama District Council, to lobby and advocate for promoting farmers accessing grants and loans under the Constituency Development Fund. Under this initiative, experts from my ministry will work with the cooperatives and the individual farmers to develop concept notes, business plans, and continue providing extension services. I therefore encourage the people of Lufwanyama constituency to take advantage of these government initiatives to promote economic development, particularly in livestock production. In B, Madam Speaker, as I have already stated above, the plans are being implemented through various government programs, and therefore the question in B falls off. In C also, Madam Speaker, as the plans are already being implemented, this question also falls off. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I've seen there's a lot of interest. Honorable members, as we ask the question, please bear in mind that this is a constituency-based question relating to plans to empower small-scale farmers in Lufwanyama. The Honorable Member for Lufwanyama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for good explanation and considering the people of Lufwanyama. I just want to find out, Madam Speaker, when exactly is the restocking exercise will start?
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Member. Like I've stated that we are in the process of selecting districts that are supposed to benefit from this year's program. And the implementation of restocking and stocking will be conducted this year as first part. But this is a continuous program that will see the government supporting the sector. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kafiwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to find out from the Honorable Minister whether for Lufwanyama, is he listening? Whether for Lufwanyama he's only going to deal with the cattle that he talked about, and if he's also considering some birds and smaller animals at some later point. Thank you so much.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kafiwe. Madam Speaker, like I stated, I was specifically answering the question, which was just anchoring on the cattle. But as a ministry, we have the program for restocking and restocking of the small ruminant livestock. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalulushi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for allowing the good people of Kalulushi to ask the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock. Minister, on behalf of the people of Lufwanyama, who happen to be my neighbors, I just wanted to find out, because you are in the process of doing the restocking and stocking exercise, are you, Minister, working with organizations like Heifer International, who have always aided government in the restocking exercise, while we are waiting for, obviously, the bidding process, or whether government is looking for money to purchase those animals for the restocking exercise? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm sure the former minister knows what he's talking about. The ministry is always supported also by cooperating partners that come on board to support the program of the government. They also supplement the efforts of the government. So as we are talking, there are other cooperating partners that are going to support our program of restocking and stocking that the government has.
There is an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Nyimba, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in life it's very good to make a decision whether it is wrong or it is right. Is the Minister of Local Government in order to sit comfortably there, Madam Speaker, without telling us or the nation that the job he has done there in in the city of Lusaka.
Order, Honorable
A
Member.
very recommendable
Order, you are out
job.
of order, Honorable Member. It doesn't arise as a point of order. Can we make progress? I would just take 2 more questions because we need to make progress. I will take somebody from the mining area. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Allow me once again, Madam Speaker, to ask the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries a very important follow-up question. Minister, in your response, you have informed this august House and as well as the nation that you have assigned a team to determine which districts will be able to benefit from restocking and stocking. Are you able to share the criteria that will be used to determine who will benefit from this exercise? And I stand here as a MP for an area that would wish to benefit from this very important undertaking. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The problem is now we are extending the question. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Other than mining, Madam Speaker, I think so. Now livestock. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. That was just on the lighter note. And thank you very much, Honorable Member. Like you heard, stocking and restocking is an ongoing program. And this year, we are talking about 1,000 beef cattle and 225 dairy cattle, of which, when you look at the numbers, these are small numbers. This process, or the government of the New Dawn administration wants to make sure that across the country, areas are shared equally. So in this program, we are going to start with the district that we are going to be advised by our experts in accordance to those who have been benefiting in the past. There are people who have been benefiting from the restocking and the restocking program. So we want to make sure that other districts that have never benefited should be considered. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question will be from the neighbor, the Honorable Member for Masaiti.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I really appreciate for identifying me to ask a question. Honorable Minister, you've said that you are taking into account the issue of cattle rearing in selected parts of the country. So what are your officers looking at, taking into account the 3 basic needs of livestock? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Honorable Member. My experts, first of all, they will prioritize areas that we have potential to look after these cattle. And secondly, we also look, we are first point that I have just explained, to some of these areas which the government has already done this exercise of restocking and stocking. And also, we will consider the viable beneficiaries, especially amongst our small-scale farmers. So, Madam Speaker, those are some of the factors that my experts are going to consider before we allocate these cattle to our would-be farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Fanyama, you have no other question. I take it. You have no other question? Thank you.
No other question, Madam.
Thank you. Next question, the Honorable Member for Skongo.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Question number 389.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Sikongo asked the Minister of Finance in 5 parts whether the government has any plans to recapitalize National Savings and Credit Bank, NATSEV. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented. In C, how many government ministries and departments hold accounts with the bank as of November 2022? Indeed, what measures the bank is taking to increase its customer base? And in E, how many districts have NatSave as their only bank? Madam Speaker, before I answer the question, just allow me to make one short remark, Madam Speaker. The President of the African Development Bank, and yesterday he said Zambia is bankable. That hope, confidence, credibility, and bankability has been restored. Madam Speaker, yesterday, the Financial Investment Network awarded the Minister of Finance, Honorable Dr. Musokotwani, the Outstanding Minister of the Year award. And this, Madam Speaker, was on the basis of being globally the most trending minister in terms of management of the economy and financial affairs of Zambia. We simply say congratulations to Dr. Musokotwani. Madam Speaker, our response to Part A. The House may wish to note that the Ministry of Finance and National Planning has developed a turnaround strategy to ensure that NatSave operates profitably. As part of this strategy, government has plans to recapitalize NatSave. The House, Madam Speaker, may wish to know that government has a budget of 500 million. This will be done in the fourth quarter of 2023 to 2024. Government has also earmarked funds for recapitalization in the 2023 and 2024 budget. In sim, Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that NatSave has collection and transit accounts for facilitating of different government programs such as FISIP, social cash transfer, food reserve agency payments. The bank, in addition, has accounts for government-owned counterparties such as the Zambia Revenue Authority and the National Pension Scheme Authority. Indeed, in addition, in an effort to increase the customer base, the bank is implementing several measures, including the following. 1, investment in digital capabilities such as mobile banking, internet banking, and agency banking. 2, revamping up marketing and publicity activities using radio, television, and print media. 3, realigning the current staffing to have a more sales-oriented staff and as such improve the bank's selling presence. Number 4, entering into strategic partners such as those in agriculture, construction, and educational sector. And 5, engaging in mutually beneficial corporate social responsibility projects such as the one entered with the Zambia Police Service. And in E, Madam Speaker, currently the following 14 districts have NatSave as their only bank. And these are Chavumam, Kaputam, Kazungulam, Chamam, Mwense, Chelenjem, Chilubim, Kalabo, Lukulu, Polokosom, Luwingu, Kasempa, Pongwe, and Rufwanyama. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Sikongo.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Allow me to thank the Acting Minister of Finance, who I know is able to the task, having served as a fully-fledged Minister of Finance at some point. However, Madam Speaker, I would like to mention that NATSEV is the only bank that is 100% owned by the Republic of Zambia. And following the statement by the Minister to recapitalize NATSEV, which I think is a welcome move, however, I would like to find out from the Minister, does the recapitalization of NATSEV include construction of banks in districts such as Congo that don't have any banking facility at all? I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, the recapitalization of 500 million kwacha includes plans to expand banking activities into those districts that do not have banking operation. And I think, Sikongo, you may wish to contact us to see if you are on that plan. I thank you.
Thank you. Since it has been mentioned, I also wish to congratulate our Honorable Minister of Finance for that recognition. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Allow me once again, Madam Speaker, to ask a follow-up question to the Acting Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, banking is a very competitive business. No matter how many clients we force on NATSEV, if they don't have the capability to provide the services, we'll still have these challenges. My follow-up question to you, Acting Minister. The technology that is needed for NATSEV to perform effectively, is that covered in the 500 million kwacha that will be given to NATSEV in order for it to be competitive? Because without competition, it will still not be able to provide the right services. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, in terms of technology, we have said that NATSEV is delivering mobile banking services, internet banking, and agents banking. That is on one side. On the other side, we have also said that it is the only bank that has presence in 14 districts where no other bank is. So it has the advantage. In addition, Madam Speaker, if you take some of the programs that NATSEV has handled, such as social cash transfer, only in 2023, 200 million, CDF, 700 million, and FISIP, almost 160 million. So through those transactions and using appropriate technology, NATSEV is harvesting revenue, and hence it is on the road to solid profitability. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Sikongo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from my research, I've discovered that NATSEV is offering all the services that fully-fledged commercial banks are offering in this country. Now, my question is to the Minister, the Acting Minister of Finance. Are there any plans in the immediate future to turn NATSEV into a fully-fledged commercial bank? I thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that we have more researchers. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, obviously, every bank has a mission and purpose. And one of the purposes for NATSEV is to mop up savings. That is their key strategy, particularly in the rural part of Zambia. And therefore, they have adopted a niche in banking where they should put their investment and strength. For them to try and compete with other banks, they may get injured. So the strategy is to do what you do, and you do it as effectively, efficiently, and as profitable as possible, and expand from there. Let me also add that the recapitalization, 300 million will be to business support, 200 million will be to creating infrastructure, such as you said in Sigongo. So you may be catered for. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and let me join you also in applauding and congratulating our own Dr. Stombeko Msokotwane for the achievement. Madam Speaker, I want to find out from the Honorable Minister, having said that there are some government institutions which have got accounts with NatSev, and in your efforts to recapitalize, you have also talked about increasing the customer base for the same. Aren't you thinking as a ministry, going forward, in actually taking a deliberate measure or policy to ensure that all the CDF accounts are domiciled at NatSev? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you for that question. Madam Speaker, CDF is a large account, and NatSev alone, not even APSAM or StanChart or StanBig can handle it alone. Partly because of presence, partly because of reach, partly because of customer spread. So in order to deliver it efficiently, the strategy of government is to use those banks that are as near as possible to where the transactions must happen, and not those banks that are remote from the transaction. And therefore they cannot, and we shall not put all the money for CDF in NatSev, because it may fail to deliver on time, it may fail to deliver efficiently. So only give them as much as is required to where they have a point of transaction. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The last question, the Honorable Member for Kantanshi.
Most grateful, Madam Speaker. Let me also join you in congratulating our well-able Finance Minister. Honorable Minister, yesterday I was talking about government money, taxpayers' money, being invested back in these companies, which are supposed to stand on their own. Now, you have just announced 500 million, of which it will be taxpayers' money. Is there a time frame government has attached in terms of the anticipated performance, better performance of NatSev, so that this money can come back to the Treasury? Because if we continue this path, we'll continue seeing more and more taxes being placed on our citizens. I would like to find out what the real plan is. Thanks.
Thank you. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, if you look at some of the performance trends of NatSev, showing you that they are actually moving forward. In 2022, they were able to lend over 1.1 billion of their own money. That is progress. Madam Speaker, in 2022, they reduced non-performing loans from 18% to 1%. That tells you that they are on the right trajectory. Madam Speaker, in terms of accounts, in 2012 they had 280,000. In 2022, 1.5 million accounts. So a bank that is showing that type of trend in terms of performance can only be encouraged for them to grow bigger and bigger. This Honourable Member of Parliament for Katashi is not money down the drain. This is money that is going to deliver, and government will harvest a return. I thank you.
Thank you. Notes of motion, the Honourable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this House do adopt the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, laid on the table of the House on the 17th of July 2023.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Seconded by the Honourable Member for Chikankata. The question is that this House do adopt the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2021 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 17th July 2023. The Honourable Member for Bwana Mkubwa.
Madam Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order number 192, the committee considered the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2021 as a rare honor and privilege to present its finding before the House. Madam Speaker, to acquaint itself with the queries cited in the Auditor General's report, the committee interacted with various controlling officers who tendered both written and oral submission before it. Madam Speaker, I'm aware that members of this august House have already perused through the committee's report. Therefore, I shall endeavour to highlight only a few pertinent issues that emanated from the committee's deliberation. Madam Speaker, from the onset, let me state that most ministries, provincial administrations, and spending agencies cited in the report bemoan the late release of funds, making it difficult for them to implement activities as provided for in the budget. For instance, in the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 2021, a provision of 12,384,067,957 was budgeted for under the Ministry of Health to cater for various activities. However, only 8,696,877,188 was released, resulting in an underfunding of 3,687,190,770 million. As a result of some of the budget lines for the ministry in the 2021 financial year were not adequately funded, leading to failure to implement planned programs as highlighted in the Auditor General's report. Madam Speaker, the committee therefore urges that the Secretary to Treasury to ensure that funds are released on time so that all planned activities are implemented as provided for in the budget. The committee also implores controlling officers to be proactive to ensure that funds are spent timely and as appropriated by Parliament. Madam Speaker, the committee is deeply saddened at the weaknesses observed in the management of the youth empowerment programs, such as a failure to ensure or recover loans. Madam Speaker, as you may be aware, the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts is responsible for the management of the youth empowerment programs. The disbursement of the fund was delegated to all provincial administrations. However, most of the controlling officers bemoan the absence of clear guidelines on how the loans will be insured. Therefore, the committee is of the strong view that in order to mitigate the problem, the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts should revise its guidelines so that insurance costs are deducted from the principal loans at source. The committee also implores the controlling officer to ensure that all loans beneficiaries are insured without undue delay. Madam Speaker, the committee was taken aback to learn that despite the colossal sums of money being disbursed, the provincial administrations failed to recover the loans to that effect. Additionally, beneficiaries were required to pay directly into the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts account and not through the provincial administration account, making it difficult for controlling officers to ascertain whether or not repayments were made to that effect. Further, beneficiaries were required to make payments through the Zambia National Commercial Bank. Unfortunately, the bank does not have branches in all areas where beneficiaries are located. In view of the foregoing, the committee implores controlling officers to devise mechanisms to compel all beneficiaries to pay back the loans to that effect. The committee also entreats the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts to consider extending banking services to mobile phone operators to enhance loan repayment in areas where the Zambia National Commercial Bank does not exist. Madam Speaker, the committee also inspected projects in newly created districts in Luapula, Central Province, Muchinga Province to augment the findings in the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 31st December 2020. The Auditor General's report reviewed several irregularities on the construction of office blocks, police stations, police offices, houses, and associated external works. The committee is deeply saddened that most stored projects are being vandalized because contractors left the sites after the presidential pronouncement to focus on projects that were 80% complete. While acknowledging the securing a project under construction is a preserve of the contractor, the committee notes that it has become expensive for contractors to secure projects when they do not know when funding to complete the projects will resume. The committee therefore urges the controlling officers at the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development to give a clear policy direction on whether or not the government has secured adequate resources to complete all outstanding projects to prevent further damage to public properties. Madam Speaker, the committee also bemoans the poor workmanship exhibited by contractors. While the committee agrees with the contractors that the government delays in paying for certified works, some buildings were below the prescribed standard. For instance, the Civic Center in Ngabwe district did not meet the standards provided in the contract. The committee also notes that most slabs in some districts visited were not properly treated. As such, they are being attacked by termites even before being handed over to the client, who is the government. For some, even the grass and shrubs are growing on the slabs. The committee is of the view that this is purely a result of lack of supervision and wonders how works are certified with such poor quality of works in Ngabwe district, for example. In this regard, the committee urges the controlling officer at the Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development to ensure that provincial infrastructure officers in Central Province who certified shoddy works are charged, for there is a fair attitude causing the government to pay for works that are below acceptable standard. Madam Speaker, while acknowledging that the law provides for punishment for contractors who abrogate contractual obligation, the failure to institute stern measures has exhibited the provisions of poor quality of works and at the most even abandoning projects. Contractors who've breached contractual obligations have not been stopped from participating in government projects. In this regard, the committee urges the controlling officer to consider blacklisting contractors who abrogate contractual obligations so as to deter others from committing similar offenses. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, let me also briefly comment on the issue relating to mortgage financing. The committee was privileged to tour the Zambian missions abroad in Africa, such as Zimbabwe, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, London in the United Kingdom, and the New Delhi. During the tour, the committee observed that major hindrance of progress on the mortgage finance projects in India was lengthy procurement processes. Also, this resulted in government losing money in form of interest on the acquired loans, as well as through depreciation of the Zambian currency. In this regard, the committee urges controlling officers to expedite the procurement processes to avert loss of money through interest on loans, depreciation of the Zambian kwacha. In conclusion, I wish to thank you, all stakeholders who participated in the production of the committee report. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chikankata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for affording me an opportunity to second the motion that has been moved by the chairperson that this House do adopt the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2021 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly laid on the table of the House on 17th July 2023. Madam, in seconding the motion, let me also take this opportunity on behalf of the committee and indeed on my own behalf to thank the chairperson for the able manner in which he presided over the committee's deliberations. Madam Speaker, my speech will focus on the committee's findings during the local tour. The tour was a culmination of the deliberations contained in the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 31st December 2020. Madam Speaker, to augment the findings contained in the report with primary evidence, your committee embarked on a fact-finding mission to some of the newly created districts in Central, Luapula, and Muchinga provinces. During the tour, the committee inspected office blocks, police stations, post offices, and houses that are still under construction. These projects are being implemented by the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Madam Speaker, the committee was appalled to see that projects that were almost complete were being vandalized because they have been abandoned and no one has taken responsibility to look after them. Madam Speaker, when we went there, we had a challenge even of accessing certain projects because of the situation we found on the ground. Madam Speaker, where still the projects have been overgrown by glass and slabs such that your committee struggled to get access to the project sites. This is unacceptable because the government has spent a lot of money on these projects. Madam Speaker, the committee is of the view that district commissioners and council chairpersons should show leadership by devising ways and means of protecting construction sites, as well as clearing them. When sites are cleared, vendors will be scared to tamper with the structures. Madam Speaker, I'll give you an example of one of the districts in Luapula province, where the vendors went with the iron bars to remove the windows which were there. The floor tiles were removed after government spending a lot of resources, which is not acceptable. Further, the controlling officer at the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development should engage district commissioners and council chairpersons to devise mechanisms to ensure that stored projects in newly created districts are protected. Honorable Miropi. Further, the committee observed that most projects commenced in 2014 when construction materials were lower than they are in 2023. As such, some contractors applied for price variations but have not gotten responses from the ministry. In this regard, your committee implores the controlling officer to respond to the request for price variation as a matter of urgency to ensure that projects are completed on time. Madam, I would be failing in my duties if I do not comment on the construction of storage sheds by the African Advanced Solutions, ADAS. It is disheartening to note that since 2021, when ADAS was engaged to construct 91 storage sheds, only 14 have been constructed, although the project was expected to conclude in June 2023, and this is July. They've only constructed 14 storage sheds. Madam, the committee fears that the contractor will not conclude the project within the contract period. The committee therefore urges the controlling officer to ensure that the contractor completes the project without any further delay. In conclusion, allow me, Madam Speaker, to also join the chairperson in thanking all the controlling officers, the Secretary to the Treasury, who appeared before the committee for their cooperation during the deliberations. Madam, last but not the least, the committee also expresses its gratitude to the Office of the Clerk of National Assembly for the services rendered to it during its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I beg to second.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the motion which is on the floor of the House, the report of your committee on public accounts. Madam Speaker, at the outset, I would like to state clearly that I'm very impressed with the quality of audit, especially the Auditor General's report, and of course that armed your committee to come up with such a report.
Honorable Member for Zambezi, Honorable Member, no, sorry, Honorable Member for Masaiti, Honorable Member for Matero, Honorable Member, my young sister there, please, can you, if you want to discuss, you can go and discuss outside. Can we listen to the debate? May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Before I was interrupted, I was just about to state that I'm particularly impressed with the quality of the audit report on the accounts of the Republic, because it gives us more information to know what is going on. And the way things are set up, just for the information of members, is such that we have permanent witnesses that sit with the committee in there to support them throughout their sittings. The Office of the Auditor General themselves, who produced this report, the Office of the Accountant General, who is responsible for actually producing the accounts that are audited, and the Controller of Internal Audit, who is responsible for instituting controls in these institutions to warrant accountability in the institutions. So this is a very well laid out system which gives you a report such as this one we are debating today. So when we have such a report, it has passed through a furnace of systems that are in place, and I'm happy our country has got such systems. Madam Speaker, however, when you look at the report of your committee, there are glaring issues that they have raised, as though we do not have such fine systems in place. The reason is very simple. There is a laissez-faire attitude towards work, and people don't seem to pay attention to what is supposed to be done. The Auditor General, as an office, is actually formulated under Article 250 of the laws of Zambia. And it prescribes what they are supposed to be doing each year. And there are many other legal provisions which guides staff in these public institutions. The Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018 guides, and many other pieces of legislation. But, alas, many of our public servants choose to ignore these provisions. Hence, these glaring audit queries that appear in these reports. We've heard them lament about revenue collection. There are systems that are put in place, and I'm glad now there is an improvement because most of them are being automated. Since there are automation of revenue collection in the systems, we expect efficiency to be enhanced. However, this requires supervision. Any good system cannot operate well without supervision. There must be appropriate supervision in order for these to work out. On the expenditure side, of course, this is where the money gets leaked. If money has not been pinched at the time of it being collected, it is also pinched at the time when it is exiting the government coffers. But how is it pinched through exiting? It's through many of these government processes. Things like contracts. I'll cite one example, because we also had an interaction with it in the Committee on Parastatal Bodies. But now, since I've heard it also from the Public Accounts Committee, I'll mention about it. It's about the others contract. This is pure fraud, in my opinion, because this involved, I think, the FRA. There were sheds that were supposed to be made. And can you imagine, Madam Speaker, it's a situation where a contract was entered in on behalf of FRA by the Minister of Finance. And that contract was so unfavorable to the government of the Republic of Zambia, such that if some payment, some advance payment was delayed to be paid, a penalty was going to be charged, a very high penalty. We had to suffer a penalty to the tune of more than $50 million. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And this is purely fraud. This, in my opinion, Madam Speaker, I must submit as a people of Zambezi East. This issue needs to be followed. There must be a forensic audit to be followed in this others deal. It is pure fraud, and we can't afford to have up to today people are not yet arrested. And most of them, some of them who were involved in this are seated right here. So we cannot go on like this and talk about a report and debate about it when we have glaring issues here. And not only that, you see, it's not just people maybe in the executive who could be blamed. We need also to have a very close look at that office of the Attorney General. I'm not talking about the current one, even the previous one. And whoever was involved in signing these contracts, they must be followed. Because they are causing us to lose money. And the trend continues, and I've been looking at it. I'm a finance person myself, and I'm able to see where fraud exists. The Office of the Auditor General must be, the Office of the Attorney General must be checked in terms of which contracts they usher us into. Without which, because you see, money does not just get stolen by the spending agencies. Even at the time of entering into a contract, money can actually be stolen. Actually, even in a bigger way. Like the more than $50 million I'm talking about here. It was actually stolen at the time of entering into a contract. So we must be mindful, even as we debate this report. I think we should be talking of such substantial amounts that have actually gone than us just debating as a business as usual. Madam Speaker, I thought by making a contribution on that specific item, I would be actually giving value to this debate so that we have food for thought. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. I just heard somebody saying another accountant. from accountant to accountant. Let me begin by appreciating my honorable colleague, Honorable Mwambazi, the chairperson, for moving this motion. And as I do, also appreciate my honorable dear colleague, Honorable Salao, who seconded this particular motion. Madam Speaker, as my fellow accountant was tendering his discourse, you could hear me appreciating some of the points he raised. And I think it may do to reiterate that the audit report which produced or which your committee considered to come up with this more than 400-paged report is of high quality. This is why I would like to appreciate the former Auditor General and his team for producing such a high-quality report. Madam Speaker, my honorable colleague spoke about permanent witnesses in this particular process. And those are very important points. Auditor General's Office, Accountant General's Office, and the Controller of Internal Audit. You may still recall, Madam Speaker, the issue of allowances that may be sitting at the Anti-Corruption Commission. These are the permanent positions in this entire process. And this is why we've been talking about unfairness, been talking about mistreatment of people who produce such quality work for the Zambian people, only to end up being victimized by the government. Madam Speaker, I will take you to page 346 of the committee's report. 346. This is where you will find interesting stories about the Ministry of Agriculture. Very interesting stories, Madam Speaker. When you read under direct bidding of inputs, fertilizer and seed, you will see serious problems there, because the Ministry of Agriculture decides to direct bid as opposed to following competitive bidding mechanisms which are provided for by law. You will recall what happened, Madam Speaker, in 2021, towards the end of the year, how fertilizer was procured, and the stories that ensued. Madam Speaker, delayed delivery of fertilizer. After all these bidding processes which were so bad, where some suppliers were awarded $1,502 per ton, at the same time others being awarded just $992 per ton for the same type of fertilizer. And the ton is a ton, regardless of who is bringing it to the table. The difference of $510 per ton, when you multiply that, Madam Speaker, by 50,000 tons, you get $25.5 million. In 2021, the dollar was at 20 kwacha. Multiply, Madam Speaker, 25.5 million. That is 510 million, Madam Speaker. And today, we cannot be surprised when FIC produces $6.1 billion, 6.1 billion kwacha of suspicious transactions, because this is an extremely suspicious transaction. But what you will hear from your committee is that in all of these things, they are saying supply documents to the Auditor General. They are saying don't hide documents. I have stood on this platform, challenged the Minister of Agriculture to tell his PS not to ignore the letters written to him by the Auditor General in demand for audit documents. The man has refused. Madam Speaker, your committee now vindicates me. Your committee vindicates me by, in all of these things, saying that they have refused to supply documents to the Auditor General. Let me inform my honorable colleague, in spite of the beauty of that report, in spite of the quality of that report, the Auditor General didn't get all his documents because a PS in Ministry of Agriculture refused to tender those documents. What could have been the quality of this report? What could have been the quality of this report had that PS provided the information that the Auditor General needed? It could have been pure beauty, my brother. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kafue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was carried away with digesting the debate of these people who are well versed with figures as accountants. But as a lay person in this field, I also wanted to say that I think the crux of the matter is not really about the beauty in the report, but also the action that is done with the findings in the report. Because year in, year out, we've been listening about these glaring findings in the Auditor General's report. But if we have heard of any follow-up actions in terms of prosecuting people, I think very little is happening in that regard. And for me, that is where I would want to see things happening so that there's a deterrent to those who have a tendency to abuse public funds, with impunity. Other than that, Madam Speaker, I wanted to just also use this opportunity to say that whichever ministry, and I'm using this as an example, or yesterday we were just commissioning a project in Kafue, the other day, a 1x3 classroom block, which cost us around 1,160,000. And I've been comparing with what, colleagues have produced, somewhere else, varying, amounts. I think it's high time we revisited these so-called standard costs from the ministries, because that seems to be opening a window, for people also to, excessively charge, these projects when they should, be within reasonable ranges. I was quite, sad, to see that, because we could have used those monies for something else. So there's a lot that we need to do actually to curb these our technocrats from beating the systems that somebody alluded to, so that they take undue advantage of government funds. We have a lot that we need to do. We were talking about the losses from incomplete buildings, and I did, watch some of the field tours by the committee. The sites that they visited were quite, sorry sights, to see. We have such situations also where buildings have stood for a long time, and indeed they are deteriorating before they even finish. So, from our Ministry of Infrastructure, the issue of those incomplete secondary schools, I will keep talking about this one, because I have one that I'm seeing also with sadness in my constituency that never finishes, Chikupi. And there are many such, in that situation, which would require, completion, deliberate allocation of funds, maybe in the next year's budget, 2023, so that we can get these schools, completed. Otherwise, we'll end up paying much more because of the continued deterioration that these pieces of infrastructure will continue to, to undergo. And also when we allocate, Madam Speaker, I think it's very important that when we allocate, we fully allocate in order to finish off the products. Because in one other instance, again, a clinic was built somewhere with a staff house, but without an abortion block. Now with CDF, we did an abortion block, but the staff house and that clinic are already dilapidated and requiring more funds again to be renovated before that abortion block can even be used. So you can see the wastage, that is, going on And I like the suggestion also from the committee where they say that perhaps our council chairpersons and the DCs indeed could take the leadership at that local level to ensure that these sites are gathered, are secured properly so that there's no vandalism happening to these projects. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I thought I would just also contribute briefly with a lot of emphasis, on ensuring that this tendency, to inflate prices in order to defraud government of resources indeed needs to check. I'm glad that last week we were being asked to submit names of where we think that school grants are being misused. I think this is the direction we should move, even in terms of CDF, so that some of these projects can be audited and action immediately taken, and not to wait to consider a report which is over 4 years when the things happened. We need action, instant action to be taken so that people cannot continue doing this to public funds. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Nyimba. Honorable members, an appeal, we don't have to exhaust all the 8 minutes, and also there is no need to repeat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm not an accountant, but due to some of the issues which have been raised in this report, I think I'm compelled to add up few words on this important debate, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to look at the issues which are very important now, today. I think each and every constituency is receiving good money. Some money is for infrastructure development. And if you look at the supervision on these infrastructures, Madam Speaker, looking at the report, I totally agree with the report. The supervision is not there. As a result, a good substantial amount of monies are being wasted. And as controlling officers, even the supervisors who are out there, Madam Speaker, they are not doing their job. Even the end users, like when we look at Ministry of Education, they have building officers across this country in each and every district. Madam Speaker, you find that the case of Ngambwa, that is the case in each and every district. So my appeal also to ministries, especially the Ministry of Infrastructure and Education, is please, can we come up with the proper designs and BOQs for these infrastructures? Madam Speaker, a good number of amount of money is going either to Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and these are the people who are getting the monies. But the sad part, if you look in your report, Madam Speaker, you find that your report states that even the slabs which are out there are not well treated because of poor supervision. It's a challenge to the Ministry of Infrastructure. Ministry of Infrastructure, I sympathize with you that maybe you don't have enough monies, but we need to come up with a plan. Because you need to come up with a plan so that this plan, Minister, can start working. We cannot keep on telling people that we are going to complete infrastructures, and at the end of the day, we cannot bring a report to Parliament and say, in the last 24 months, so many buildings have been completed. Madam Speaker, my prayer is that in the next year's auditor's report, or next year when we come back to Parliament, we should have a report from the ministry telling us that we have worked on such unfinished buildings. Madam Speaker,
sorry, Honorable Member for Nyimba, there is an indication for a point of order. What's the point of order, Honorable Member?
Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 65. 1B.
Proceed, Honorable Member. What's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee, and I struggled and I kept on checking for page 356 in our report, which the Honorable Accountant Member for Lunte was referring to, where he says the Permanent Secretary at Ministry of Agriculture refused to give any documents to public accounts or to auditors. There is nowhere where it's written that the Permanent Secretary refused. That is a fabrication of what is consisted in the report. Is he therefore in order to continue misleading the House that there was a time a Permanent Secretary from Ministry of Agriculture refused to bring to the fore the required documents? I submit, Madam Speaker, and I ask for a serious ruling.
Thank you very much. Probably I just reserve that ruling because I'll need to go through the documentation and see what whether the honourable member, what the honourable member referred to is referred to in the report. May the honourable member for Nyimba continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in this Parliament, we've bemoaned the lack of medicine in our health facilities, and we have crucified Honourable Minister of Health. Madam Speaker, 12 million was budgeted for in 2022. Only 18 million, 8.6, I mean 12 billion, 12.3 billion was budgeted for, and only 8.6 billion was given to the ministry. So meaning the budget was given less by 3.6 billion kwacha. Madam Speaker, this is a very serious ministry. The audit report states that we did not fund the ministry fully. And we are here, Madam Speaker, just talking about the Ministry of Health, forgetting that this person also, this ministry to work, they need the Ministry of Finance. It's a challenge to the Ministry of Finance that let's release the monies in time, because the process of procuring drugs, Madam Speaker, it's not a way where you go into ShopRite and buy bread and come out, you go in the chemistry, buy Panadol and come out. This is a process which needs even the whole system of government, Madam Speaker, to check that the procurement figures are okay, the people are not siphoning the monies. But Madam Speaker, if we continue not to remind the Ministry of Finance that there are sectors we cannot compromise, such as the Ministry of Health, then we are not doing a good job for ourselves. Yes, Madam Speaker, the minister has just been awarded that medal. For awarding, Madam Speaker, I wish we can have the job done now so that next year we are not taking less financing to the Ministry of Health, because this is a ministry which all of us here are fighting for in our respective districts. Madam Speaker, today betting is everywhere. If you look in our report, Madam Speaker, at the betting control board, Madam Speaker, there is no board. When they were submitting this report to your office, Madam Speaker, the board was not constituted. And if you look out there, this is a big business now in the country. And these are the things we should take interest in and see to it that the boards are constituted so that we don't have flaws. We respect the prudent management of such big businesses. That's over $1 billion business, and it really needs to be harnessed in a proper manner. Madam Speaker, on this one, on the betting, Madam Speaker, I think this is which I'm crying today that the ministry should see to it that they work on quickly. The Minister of Sports, Madam Speaker, the empowerment to the youths, we are not doing fine in this ministry. I think it's time we need to empower our youths in a proper manner. Yes, money is given, money is not recovered. Those are revolving funds. The Minister of Sports, please wake up and see to it that the funds are given to the right people, not just looking at the names. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kamfinsa.
Madam Speaker, May I begin by thanking the chair of the committee and the seconder of the motion, as well as those that have managed to debate on this very, very important topic. Madam Speaker, this report is 450 pages. I don't know how many of us can have the time in 3 days to read every detail of this report. It's quite big, and I'm sure our comments will be limited to a few specific issues. And I want to begin, Madam Speaker, to propose that next time we have this report coming before this August House, we are given ample time, Madam Speaker, to digest as many aspects of the report so that our debates are more comprehensive. Madam Speaker, nonetheless, I want to limit myself to one particular issue. As I was going through this report, Madam Speaker, I noticed that the word youth empowerment has been used a total of on about 22 pages. If you go to the report, 22 times, Madam Speaker, the word youth empowerment has been used. The word women empowerment, Madam Speaker, in this document, which is page 450, the word women empowerment has been used 23 times. Madam Speaker, I realized as I was going through this report that actually we have 6 or 7 ministries of government that are giving out youth empowerment funds. We have so many different ministries, Madam Speaker, that are giving out women empowerment funds. Now, Madam Speaker, what issue am I trying to raise this afternoon? Currently, Madam Speaker, we have a serious problem of measuring whether these funds are impacting positively on our people. And I'll explain why, Madam Speaker. Today, you can go to Kamfinsa constituency and apply for youth empowerment funds. The committee will give you the youth empowerment funds. After 2 days, Madam Speaker, you can go to Chilabombwe constituency and apply for youth empowerment funds. Madam Speaker, there is no system that will be able to tell that person A has gotten empowerment funds in Shiwangandu, in Kamfinsa constituency, in Solwezi Central. And we can't measure the impact of these funds, Madam Speaker, because we don't even know the people we are giving these empowerment funds. So the first issue I want to propose, Madam
Sorry,
Speaker.
Honorable Member for Kamfinsa, there is an indication for a point of order. There is a point of order, Honorable Member for Kamfinsa. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Order number 65, content of debate. I did not want really to raise this point of order against my lovable MP for Kamfinsa, but I've been compelled. Really, I've been compelled. Youth empowerment. That somebody can say it is given to people who are not known. And we are in Zambia, under the New Dawn government, headed by His Excellency the President, Dr. Hakainde Hichilema. Madam Speaker, fact is better stated. What I know, Madam Speaker, is what Honorable Kangombe knows, that all these youth empowerment programs goes through the World Development Committee. A member resides in a ward and has to be identified by the World Development Committee. Is the honorable member in order to state, really to state, and then the listeners will get and eventually misled that this youth empowerment is given to people who are not known, who cannot be identified. Is he in order? Honorable Madam Speaker, thank you.
Order. Honorable members, as we debate, let's remain factual. I think I was reading a ruling this morning, or this afternoon when we just started, that members should be factual. Honorable Member for Kamfinsa, when you state that the youth empowerment is given to members who are not known where they are coming from. Or a member can go to one constituency, another constituency, another constituency. I believe there is a criteria, and depending, everything is possible, but if we are going to encourage our members who are listening, that actually there is a possibility of cheating to that extent, I think that is not good. As honorable members, let's encourage good order and follow the criteria. The criteria is there. It's not 100%, but people can abuse. But those people who abuse definitely are committing offenses. So, honorable member for Kamfisa, please try to be factual. Unless if you have evidence to lay before on the table that you have instances of that nature in your constituency. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, allow me to proceed with my discourse, and your guidance is well noted. Madam Speaker, I want to raise a very important issue, which I believe is very critical for this conversation. Madam Speaker, currently in Zambia, and this is a fact, there is no system that confirms whether one person, Madam Speaker, has accessed funding on one government program. And the point I wanted to raise, Madam Speaker, is the issue of developing an integrated data management system. A system, Madam Speaker, that will allow an applicant to be screened immediately they lodge in their application for empowerment funds. If today a young person in Nkana constituency decided to apply for youth empowerment funds, whether it's under the Ministry of Agriculture or under the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development, Madam Speaker, there is no system currently in Zambia that will confirm that this applicant has already applied for funding in another district. And this point, Madam Speaker, is very fundamental in addressing the issue that has been raised in the audit findings. The audit report is saying, Madam Speaker, that we are not recovering enough funds after we disperse the funds. And for me, having understood one of the challenges in confirming who has accessed funding before, Madam Speaker, I'm raising a very important issue. And I know that the Minister of Finance, under whose custody, Madam Speaker, public funds are dispersed, will appreciate the point that I want to raise. The point I want to raise, Madam Speaker, is as follows. Today, if you go to the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, they are giving out empowerment funds right now, Madam Speaker. And they've been given names: booster loans, CEC empowerment funds. Madam Speaker, that is one government ministry giving out funding. If today you go to the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development, Madam Speaker, they are also giving out empowerment funds. Is it possible today, Madam Speaker, to confirm that someone who has applied for funding under the Ministry of SME has already been given empowerment funds in another ministry? Madam Speaker, currently in Zambia, there is no system that has been provided. And this is why, Madam Speaker, my proposal, believing that we cannot continue empowering the same people, Madam Speaker, if we are going to distribute our little resources, Sinazongwe should get its share of funding. The people that benefit in Sinazongwe, Madam Speaker, should not go to Chirundu, because we want to distribute our little resources as a country. How do we prevent the same people, Madam Speaker, from getting empowerment funds under one ministry, from getting empowerment funds under another ministry? Madam Speaker, we need to develop an integrated data management system. A system, Madam Speaker, that will be able to provide details. Just by inserting a name, Christopher Kangombe, Madam Speaker, government should be able to know that this person is from Livingston constituency and they've already benefited. That way, Madam Speaker, we are going to provide opportunities to as many people as possible. I appreciate that funding over the years will be scaled up. And I know this funding will require that more people benefit. But, Madam Speaker, why should we empower the same people? Why is it that one government ministry today will tell you the interest rate on this loan is 3%? Madam Speaker, you go to another ministry, they'll tell you, for you to acquire a loan from our ministry, you have to pay back at 6%. Why can't we have a consistent policy on the interest rates for government loans?
Why can't we provide uniform guidelines, Madam Speaker, so that when young people go to one constituency, when one group of people go to one government ministry, Madam Speaker, they will be able to acquire loans under the same conditions. I know the minister who's acting in finance is aware that under Commerce today, we've got programs that were undertaken 10, 15 years ago. Have we measured the impact of those loans that were given 10, 15 years ago? Madam Speaker, we have no system in place. And this is why the people of Kamfinsa, Madam Speaker, want to submit that this 450-page document, as big as it is, Madam Speaker, Kamfinsa has one particular concern. Can we develop an integrated data management system that will ensure that beneficiaries in one constituency do not go to another constituency? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Mwandi through me to add their voice to this report. Let me begin by acknowledging the mover of the report, Honorable Chair for PAC and the seconder. Madam Speaker, I would also want just to add to say our report is quite big, 50 pages or so. So I just want to echo that this report should be received well in advance to allow us time to go through and make meaningful contributions. But going through this report, one of the things that I observed, and also let me make mention that this report is from January to December 2021. One of the things that I observed on every page or every ministry that was visited was financial irregularities. I think it is important for us to put systems that will protect the Zambian people's money and not trust individuals. Systems should be in place to make sure that prevent or deter these financial irregularities. Number two, I also wanted to quickly touch on the issue of monitoring. We are very grateful because these are things that are coming out in these reports. We are very grateful to the New Dawn government for providing each constituency with a vehicle. This will really help us to make sure that we are monitoring these projects, because some of these challenges that we are seeing are a result of not having mechanisms that are put in place for monitoring. Thirdly, are stored projects. I think now I have appreciated so much the Minister of Infrastructure, because so often at a time that we come to this house and he said when funds are available. I know that answer usually is taken not very good, but this is the reason why he says when funds are available. Because we have seen so much that there are so many projects. For example, in Mwandi, I can give you an example. I have an immigration office that has stored for a long time. I have offices that have been stored for the council for a long time. For you to be able to approve certain procurements, funds have to be available. There's no way that you can approve a procurement without having that part of the funds being available. So now I've understood and appreciate the Minister of Infrastructure and every other minister that comes on the floor of the House and says when we have funds available, because it is important for us. Yes, Honorable Kampion, we've left a lot of stored projects. It is important. It is important. It is very important for you to have funds available before you can approve any financial transaction. So this is something that the New Dawn government has inherited, and we'll work on it to make sure that this is a thing of the past. And also I wanted to also touch base on page 168 of the report, Madam Speaker. One of the things that the report has highlighted is payments, social cash transfer payments to ineligible beneficiaries. I think, just being honest, Madam Speaker, when I'm looking at this, in my constituency in particular, I have had this challenge. Because what was happening previously is that this social cash transfer was given to beneficiaries that do not qualify when people are very much aware. So we had to go back and start cleaning the system. Yes.
There is a point of order. Honorable Member for Mwandi. What's the point of order? Honorable Member for Kalulush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll use Standing Order 65. Is my dear young sister there in order to come and debate like she has any evidence that previously social cash transfer was given to people that were not beneficiaries or were not eligible. When we have a minister, a current minister who has never laid any evidence of any malpractice or any errors of who should have benefited. Madam Speaker, I seek your serious ruling on the honourable member. If she came with any evidence that the beneficiaries of social cash transfer were not eligible. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, honourable members. Since I have not looked at the report clearly to see whether or not that point is referred to in the report, I will also reserve my ruling. May the honourable member for Mwandi continue.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker.
Order. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Good afternoon. Live pictures coming your way here on Parliament Television. Business will resume at 17 hours. And on the floor of the House was Mwandi lawmaker, Mr. Sibeso Sefulo, debating a motion that has been moved by Mr. Mambazi, urging the House to adopt the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the financial year ended 31st December 2021 for the second session of the 13th National Assembly, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 17th July 2023.
And this motion was seconded by Chigankatai Member of Parliament, Ms. Jacqueline Sabao. And still to come on today's order paper, we do have the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2023. There will be resumption of consideration of that bill. Remember, at the time business was suspended for adjournment, interrupted for adjournment yesterday, it was Lunte Member of Parliament, Mr. Mtoto Kafwaya, who was on the floor of the House debating.
Absolutely, and 3 other bills will follow thereafter. Details of that and many other items will be brought to you or discussed to you later on when we get back from the break. Just now we'll take a break. We'll stay tuned right here.
I'm a